Oops. I did the same thing.
Fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Supernatural Beer Bros podcast. I'm your host, Andy, and I'm joined today by Bougie Ben with his wine down San Diego way.
And Minnesota. Merry meeting you.
And also my brother, Rip Van Winkle, up there in Maine.
Yeah, that's Ben's Bougetto. He's bougie and ghetto.
Bougetto. Yeah. Shit. All right. So today's topic is the Baalbek Temple.
You mean Baalbek?
Yeah, Baalbek. I thought it was Baalbek.
Something may be lost in translation.
Could be.
Shveti Baalbek.
Oh yeah, you're right, Ronnie. It's Baalbek, not Baalbag. My bad.
Oh.
Ball sack.
Anyways, yeah. So this. Wait, what was I looking at here? So.
Before we continue, Andrew, why don't you tell the good people where they can find us?
Oh yeah, you're right. So we're on all the major podcast platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible. Podbean, all that shit. We got we're on Instagram at SBB Pod. Email is supernaturalbeerbros@gmail.com. And we're on YouTube. Same thing. YouTube channel is Supernatural Beer Bros Podcast. And I believe that's it. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thanks for reminding me, Ben.
Hey, stop that. You're throwing white supremacy symbols.
The Temple of Baalsack.
Temple of Baalsack. So during the 1st century BC,
is there a weenus attack to that Baalsack?
During this 1st century BC, construction was started on what would be a temple dedicated to the Roman god Jupiter. This religious edifice was situated within the scenic Bekaa Valley in the city that was known then as Heliopolis. The complex would see its completion around 60 AD. And
out at the table, Carlos.
And would be the largest temple ever to be constructed by the Romans that was dedicated to a deity. So
that's only 10 years before they sacked that seems crazy late to me, just in terms of constructing ancient temples, because that's only 10 years before Rome completely destroyed the Jewish Temple of Solomon in AD 70. Crazy.
Yeah.
So every part of the structure was built to massive proportions and of a scale truly befitting that of the gods. Surrounded by towering columns that stood 62 feet tall. The Temple of Jupiter was part.
Giant weenus.
What?
I said, "There's the giant weenus attached to the Baalsack."
Okay. So
62 feet high.
The Temple of Jupiter was part of a triumvirate with 2 other colossal templates, which were dedicated to his wife Astarte and their son Mercury. So while the columns and temples are most certainly Roman, there are still secrets that lay buried beneath these ancient wonders. Within the foundation of the Temple of Jupiter are 3 Cyclopean stones, which puzzle archaeologists to this very day. All written records of the construction of the temples are lost to time, and these huge stones defy all explanations on how they were moved from the suspected quarry 800 800 meters away.
Hey, Andy.
Meters. Wow.
Meters or miles? It says 800 m. What?
You should share a screen so people can see.
I'm reading on my phone.
Oh, Christ. Could have
So-
said something about that. Dickhead. Don't be such a queer. Fuck.
Fucking Ronnie. You're always interrupting me. Shut up.
You're gay.
Just listen. Remember in like the beginning when you first started doing the podcast and you were complaining that I was always talking over you and I didn't want your 2 cents. And why did I invite you on? Well, now you're the guilty party. So shut up.
Don't bite in front of the listeners.
I just Garfunkeled your mother last night, Trebek.
So, I mean, what would make more sense, meters or miles?
I think it was meters.
Probably.
There's no way they move stones that big 800 miles.
No.
They didn't even have.
Back then it would have been measured in cubits, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but they, what was I gonna say? They didn't even even if they didn't even have boats that could carry that kind of weight. There was nothing back then that could carry anything that size. So, no idea how they did it. So this is
even Andy.
Wow.
Even the largest cranes and equipment we have in the world today couldn't lift some of those blocks.
The largest cranes that we have today couldn't even lift a corner of one of those blocks.
No, exactly.
Those blocks, there's 3 blocks that they're talking about specifically. And they estimate their weight between 800 and 1,000 tons. So if they're on the high end at 1,000 tons, that's over 2 million pounds.
Over 2.2, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, we got nothing today that could lift that kind of weight.
Hey, Andy.
Wow.
What's that little icon with the heart next to it? The little heart says Friday Night Funkin'.
Oh, that's JJ.
What do you got going on there?
No, it's like this little, it's almost like Guitar Hero, but it's something my kid plays. I don't know.
Looks like some weird dating app.
Get your funk on.
I don't know what it is.
Get your Friday Night Funkin'.
So the 3 stones.
How do I remove things from this bar? Aha. There we go. Does that suit your fancy a little better, Ronnie?
No, because it's one less thing I can make fun of.
Yeah, when he first downloaded that on the other computer, because we're on the same Microsoft account between this computer and that one, so everything he does on there shows up on here. So, yeah. But when he first downloaded it, the name, I was like, "What the fuck is that?" Because sounds like
not be funkin' with no one.
Yeah,
son.
you better not be. You better not be Garfunkel. You better not be Garfunkling nobody. So, this is an article from journalearth.com. Temple of Baalbek. Hey, how about a nice used ball bag, huh? It was only scratched on Sundays. Come on, take a chance.
And the work was very sweaty to get the stones into place at Baalbek.
Lightly used, only scratched on Sundays.
They had to use Sasquatch to move them.
That damn Sasquatch.
Yeah, and friggin' Sasquatch was right here, like standing up one of those enormous pillars right there. And then you had that girl over there, like you had the girl standing right next to him going,
You are hairy like animal.
Except in Latin, but yeah.
yeah, something like that.
Aracana.
The temple.
So the ancient temple of Baalbek is located in the Becca Valley, Lebanon, close to the Syrian border. Been through this. It's at an altitude of 1,150 meters. right?
Boy,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
temple
maybe.
looks almost like the Acropolis.
That's what I was saying.
It does.
Yeah.
It looks very similar to the Greek
Obviously, the
architecture.
Romans stole a lot of Grecian architecture, so
So it is shrouded in mystery and has a number of surprising claims to fame. It was the largest temple complex ever constructed by the Roman Empire, and built within the outer walls are the largest stone building blocks of any building ever constructed in recorded history. The Roman temple complex was dedicated to Jupiter, Venus, and Bacchus until the
Bacchus?
arrival of Emperor Constantine 307
Mhm.
to 337 AD and his conversion to Christianity, which marked the slow decline of this site. As you can see by this tiny little person standing down here, this is an enormous structure.
It is
Yeah.
fairly
Far
large.
north. And it looks like it's maybe those are some hills in the background, but not like I don't know, like it looks like a
Foothills.
foothills to the left. Looks like kind of a slight incline to the right, a plane or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like built on top of a mesa or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So the three largest stones referred to as the trilithon stones in the western wall of the temple each have an estimated weight of between 800 and 1,000 tons, and they're positioned several meters off of the floor on top of other huge stone blocks. The huge trithlon blocks are positioned without mortar and with such precision that a piece of paper cannot be fitted between them.
That's wild.
Even with today's technology, excavating, moving, and installing these huge blocks with such precision and accuracy would be an enormous challenge, if it is even possible at all. No one knows how they were originally moved and fitted, and no one apparently knows why the building was designed in such a complex way.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane.
Damn Sasquatch.
Now look, like these pictures don't do the size of these things any justice. A person, like say, like you see the seam between these two stones right here. A person, you can see my mouse, right, Ben?
Yep.
Well, a person standing, if there was a ledge here, would only be like this tall, right here.
Damn.
So, yeah, these blocks are enormous.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of Sasquatch grunting and moving those up there because those are big.
Yeah, it's saying that one of the huge trilithon, well, one of the huge stones built into the western wall at Baalbek, so it was built into it. I assume they're talking about that stone right there, that long.
Well, yeah, look at this stone. Like this stone, it goes from here all the way down here.
Look at the stone.
Freaking ridiculous.
Look at the size of it.
But like we were talking about this before we started recording. I mean, just looking at this from
Look
me,
at that,
like my mind, I see three different styles of building here. I see these blocks down here, smaller. They're still big, but smaller. Then I see these enormous blocks on top. Totally different style. Then I see a much more uniformed, smaller block, looks like with mortar as well. So I'm wondering if these were already here before the Romans showed up. And the Romans built this part up here.
That would make sense to me.
Much more uniformed, sophisticated, and then obviously they're built with mortar, which is what the Romans were known for.
But it still doesn't. Still doesn't explain the question of, who more ancient than the Romans had the technology to move those blocks into place with that sort of precision.
I'm not saying it was the aliens. but it was the aliens.
It may have been the aliens.
I just need longer hair so I can just like mess it up and just say it was the aliens.
I say either these ancient cultures had a technology that we're unaware of that is far more advanced to anything that we have today, even, or they had help.
Well, look how high up they had to get those stones just on the original base there.
Yeah, no, that
Like-
one big stone that's up there on the top where the
30 feet?
Roman construction starts.
Easily
That
30
one big
feet.
stone right there is probably 40 feet up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up
It's
there.
not like they were just rolling it flat, across the plain or rolling it downhill and then they're lifting it up to 40 feet.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
but
could
what
have
if,
got
what
it
if
there on
you
rollers, maybe, but they had
Okay.
to lift it in place.
but what if you went from the corner right here and made like a 0.001% grade out like 2 miles of a ramp and just pulled it up this really, really not steep ramp?
What's that sound?
That's friggin' Aiden messaging his friggin' girlfriends.
Oh, okay. No problem.
Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I mean, look at how the Romans built that ramp to
But it would have to be an incredibly long, like almost flat ramp.
well, I know the Romans built like a ramp during the siege of Masada in modern day Israel. And that took them over a year just to build the ramp to storm the heights. But I mean,
I'm about
that's a
to kick
different.
that little shit off his fucking Xbox. That's what I'm about to do.
Well, anyhow, I mean, I'd just be curious what the other side is. Like we're seeing this at that angle. I'm curious, like what it would look like. But what would the ramp even be made of to sustain that pressure?
I don't know.
Like an earthen ramp?
Gravel, sand, and other stone, I guess.
We need to see some more pictures of Baalbek, Andy.
We'll move on. We'll move on down the line in a second.
Yeah, because I'm curious, like what the other corners look like. Yeah.
So no one knows, huh? All right, I read that part already. So UNESCO describes the site as
Wait,
one
is
of
that the same thing, or is that one of the other buildings dedicated to one of the other gods?
where down here.
Yeah, because you have that Grecian-looking building right there. Okay, so they said it's like a complex, right?
Yeah, it's a complex,
Okay,
but
'cause that's obviously a different temple than the other one we were just looking at.
yeah,
All right.
but so UNESCO describes the site as one of the most famous sanctuaries of the Roman world and a model of imperial Roman architecture. The guidebooks tell us that the entire temple complex was built by the Romans who arrived in 65 BC, and yet more and more evidence is coming to light that parts of the temple are much older.
Yep.
Yeah, obviously, like I was just saying a minute ago.
We called that. Yeah.
The mystery, if this is true, is how old is this part of the temple and how long has it been a site of worship? To give us a clue, we can look at other buildings with similar construction. This fucking kid is annoying the shit out of me.
Don't kick him off his Xbox, Andy, and come back. Pause all the shit.
I can't pause it.
Oh,
Well, here,
God.
go ahead and do what you need to, and I'll keep reading. I can read the screen, and then we'll just talk about it.
Yeah, you can see that? All right. I'll be right
Yeah.
back.
Just leave it there. All right. So the Bekaa Valley is a fertile plain, which has been conquered by many civilizations over the centuries, and the region has been continually populated for at least 9,000 years, according to German archaeologists. So ongoing excavations you were just talking about this, man.
Yeah, Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, 350 miles away. That's, I guess, in terms, even in the Roman world or that ancient time period, that's not a terribly far distance for like these kind of temple complexes.
Yeah, and you could finish that sentence. Göbekli Tepe is at least 11,000 years old.
So yeah, and they're saying Bekaa Valley is potentially 9,000 year populated. So
Which to put that in perspective, Göbekli Tepe potentially far precedes the pyramids by 6,000-7,000 years or more.
dang. So yeah, I mean, so that site has been a place of worship for at least the last 11,000 years, like you were just saying.
Right.
This
We're
takes us
talking
back
about,
to
if you really want to think about it, I mean, 11,000 years ago, we're talking about a time that conventional archaeology tells us that, the human race were hunter-gatherers and really hadn't settled or built any type of structures whatsoever, not permanent structures.
yeah. So obviously they didn't have, John Deere and cranes and anything to help with these massive construction projects.
No, absolutely. How did they build these type of structures?
Clearly, it's not doing us any good because he's still fucking getting messages and shit, annoying me. But okay, so where are we at?
So yeah, we just went past Göbekli Tepe. Yeah.
Okay, so 9,000 years ago.
Well, that's how long the Bekaa Valley itself has likely been populated. And then Göbekli Tepe has been a site of religious worship for 11,000 years potentially, which Ronnie was just pointing out puts it between 6,000 and 7,000 years older than the pyramids in Egypt.
Yeah, it says at least 11,000 years. It's potentially older. Göbekli Tepe.
What about
And
Chichen Itza?
honestly, it's only apparently the site in Turkey is only 350 miles from this site in what's now modern Lebanon or Jordan or something like that.
Oh.
So that's not like a prohibitive distance. Ancient people migrated greater distances than that, so 350 miles ain't nothing.
Migrated a lot further to get their hog waxed.
So yeah, I mean, so the question is, did ancient people move location and start building new sacred monuments after the sea levels rose at the end of this? So this was at the end of the last ice age.
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly seems to lend it some credulity.
Yeah, there was still Neanderthal walking around and probably some other primitive human species.
But you can go back to like where we mentioned Egypt and the Great Pyramids. There's some science that theorizes that the Sphinx was there far before the pyramids.
Sphincter.
The Sphinx may actually be
Older.
you had some geologists that did a lot of like research on the stone and the weathering on the stone, and it was determined through their research that the Sphinx was constructed at a time where the Giza Plateau was a lot more temperate and a lot more rainfall and such. Like in that time frame, it wasn't so much desert then. And they said the last time that the Giza Plateau was the type of climate to see that type of weathering on the stone of the Sphinx was something pushing 20,000 years.
I believe it.
And that, there's also carvings and stuff of one of I think the first dynasty, like when they were starting to build, or maybe it was when they were building the first great pyramids, like actually I think it was the Great Pyramid. There's some stuff talking about how that, in Egyptian writing, documenting the Sphinx was being, renovated. Like they were restoring it.
Right.
So that right there would point to pretty good evidence for a theory that the Sphinx was far older.
Makes sense. But the only thing is, for that to be true, um, the entire record of human history has to be rewritten because it's all lies.
Right, and it will eventually be rewritten, but the dinosaurs in academia have to die off first.
Or then,
Ideas can come to the surface.
yeah, but I mean, also like if you're going by biblical text, Earth is only about what 6,000 years old.
Well, it's not true. I mean, it doesn't like
But
say that.
yeah, but
explicitly.
you got to think though too. The Bible was written, thousands of years ago. So
No, you go back to like Old Testament stuff and how long like ancient kings reigned for, and
right,
how long
right,
how
like
long
Noah,
certain
like
people
Noah
lived.
lived. Noah lived to be almost 1,000. So
Right.
I'm wondering if
Methuselah.
I'm wondering if their measure of a year was different from ours. Like ours is a 365-day calendar year. I'm wondering if theirs was different back then.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, linear time is just a human construct. I mean, so the ancient people constructed time in their own understanding. I mean,
Yeah, but maybe back then, maybe a week or 2 weeks was a year.
that's what I'm talking
Them.
about.
Or
Like time is simply a construct.
Go into the ancient kings of Egypt and the king lists of dynasties far before what is accepted in traditional Egyptology, and the ancient kings ruled thousands of years.
this is fucking annoying. I
know.
can't stop them. There's nothing I can do, even if I turn the Xbox off.
You can't shut them. Like you can't.
No, because I'm on here. I'm logged in. It's the same account.
Let's just keep moving forward. No need to. Yeah. So, regardless, I'm interested. Like, are there any pictures of, like, what's so the Turkish site, the site in Turkey? How complex is that?
I don't know. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, because
So
this is
Göbekli Tepe.
yeah.
And what about it?
How complex is it?
Not very comparatively to others, but it's very impressive for the time period that it was supposedly built, considering that humans had not undertook any type of major construction.
Oh, is this the one that was completely buried under sand?
Yes.
They've been excavating it?
Yep.
You looking, Ben?
So even if it isn't like 1,000-ton stones, it's still amazingly impressive beyond the scope of hunter-gatherers, is what we're getting at.
Oh yeah,
Beyond
look, these
the
are
scope of what humans were believed to be capable of at that time.
yeah, no, these are quarried and shaped stones structures. That's a city around it, I think, but this is the archaeological site right here. But why would they build it and then bury it in sand?
They probably didn't. A conquering empire probably did.
I mean, isn't Turkey part desert? Was it just buried in the shifting sands of times over thousands of years?
It very well could be.
It's possible.
Kind of like Troy.
Yeah, exactly.
Troy was buried.
Yeah, I mean, it probably wasn't intentional. I mean, obviously we don't know, but
Oh yeah, I forgot they had an episode of Ancient Aliens on this place, and
Yeah.
they had like some of these uprights here like this. They had like sculpt or like carvings of like giant lizards on them, like dinosaurs and shit.
the lizard people. Oh no.
No, not lizard people, like dinosaurs.
That's what I mean. It's the same people that live on to today and they rule society.
And so that's what I mean. So the Cobb Valley inhabited, populated for 9,000 years. This site in Turkey, built allegedly 11,000 years ago. It's only 350 miles away from the Bekaa Valley, which ain't nothing in terms of human migration. So potentially they either brought their technology with them to the Bekaa Valley, or I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think the same people that built Göbekli Tepe are the same people that built the Bekaa Valley Roman temple, whatever that is.
I've heard
Well,
some.
obviously not the Roman temple. There was no Rome, but
Was it Göbekli Tepe or another place that they theorized was built by giants?
It wasn't Göbekli Tepe. There's nothing here that I see that's megalithic.
There was a megalithic structure. It may have been in Mongolia, but I don't remember. But the theory was that it was on an Ancient Aliens thing that they said it may have been built by giants.
Yeah, it's insane.
Damn Sasquatch.
that's wild.
That damn Sasquatch.
Is there anything more about the blocks or the site in Jordan?
At Baalbek.
Sveti Baalbek.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at this, just the design and the architecture, and it just amazes me. Like, look at how uniform all of these are to each other.
Andy,
What?
if you had the chance, would you clap some cheeks at Baalbek?
If I had the chance?
Yeah.
Sure, why not? I'd actually shoot my ropes all over those windows right here.
Oh, you'd make the Romans proud.
Yep. I would make sure that my seed stained the walls of Baalbek forever.
You leave your dead unborn children all over the walls.
Oh my God, Ronnie, you're killing me.
You are gay.
So, I mean, but right here looks like there was some kind of a dome at one point.
Yeah.
Right here,
Yeah.
probably came out over the top of this.
Well, I mean, all that doesn't
Half
even
dome.
bother. Like Romans built symmetrically, so
Yeah, but it's just,
And-
I mean, it's just amazing that to me that, in the times, I mean, this was built before Christ. So, it's just the mathematics and the architecture, just the design of it and actually making it, bringing it to a solid structure. It just amazes me. These are supposedly primitive people. I mean, just barely out of the friggin' hunter-gatherer phase, and they're building things like this.
well, but this is part of the Roman part, isn't it? Like I'm more curious. I'm not really impressed with that. I'm curious with how they moved those millions of pounds of singular stones. That's what has me wondering.
Yeah, I don't
Like-
know either. I have no
Well,
idea
that's
how
the-
they did it.
That's the $1 million question.
It is.
Nobody knows how they moved those stones.
2.2 million pound question.
Well, here's something that interests me. You see this picture right here with this pillar that's clearly like fallen over into the side of the wall? You see the bottom part of it's broke, right? Of the pillar.
Yeah.
Well, it's sitting on top of a nice smooth pedestal, like little platform. Where is the other broken half of this? There's nothing
Maybe.
broken underneath it.
I'd say somebody picked that up and stood it there,
That's what I'm wondering.
leaned it up there.
Just some bored Bekaa Valley youth messing around with the Roman temple.
Yes, I
And
told you,
just
it was
big
those
youth.
damn kids with their wrenches.
You damn kids with your 8-track tapes and your vanilla ice.
Right? I don't know. I mean, you just look at this though. Like these stones, like they're not that big. These ones aren't big compared to the ones we were looking at before, but just their size, their uniformity, it's almost perfect. And that it just, I don't know, it fascinates me.
I agree. I mean, we can't make stuff that lasts 20 years in this society, and
I know these things have been here for thousands of years, and they're still
Yeah.
still standing.
Yeah, to this day, we can't make a road that lasts one winter without getting full of fucking bombs. So
I know some of a lot of the Roman roads and streets are still there, especially in the in the cities like London and Paris, and a lot of those old Roman strongholds.
well, I guess to be fair, those roads didn't have thousands of cars driving over them at great speeds at great weight every single day.
They do now.
Maybe, yeah. No, that's true that they built the last, and just like look at that stone. Look at that. Like what's that supposed to be a part of?
But
Roman quarter.
I mean, that's got to be 60 feet long. I mean, minimum.
Yeah, because there's like 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like 6 or 7 people right there, all spread out, and they're not even covering the whole length of it.
Yeah, you got to figure each one of these people are probably between 5.5 and 6 feet tall. So if you took that one, laid it sideways, and this way,
meaning that block's probably 13 feet, 14 feet high. It's about the size of a friggin' semi trailer.
Well, let me ask this. Maybe we can do
it's
a little.
bigger than a semi trailer.
Like, are there any recorded historical or claimed events of Romans sort of engaging with extraterrestrial life or other forces like that?
You mean other than the gods?
Well, I mean, who knows? Maybe Jupiter is just an alien, or
Because the Romans mythology and their deities. I mean, they were almost like with the Vikings, like they were believed to be like physical beings.
yeah, and they interacted with them in mythology all the time, like visibly. Like
We
Zeus
can
would
steal your
like the Vikings, the Greeks, and the Romans. Their three religions. They're almost the same.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it makes sense for the Greeks and the Romans to be similar because, again, Romans just stole every religious idea probably that they ever had because they're like, oh, these gods are pretty cool, and well, that whole lightning bolt thing is badass. We want it for our people now.
Well, the Romans conquered Greece in short order, so it didn't take very long.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Greeks put up a fight because if you've ever heard the term Pyrrhic victory, which means a costly, bloody victory, that came from the Romans' fight with the Greeks. But yeah, you're right. They took them over. It was a province of Graecia or Gracia.
They were a vassal state of Rome.
But I mean, I'm curious if like there were any. Yeah, obviously, I'm not just talking about like the myth stories, but any like Tacitus or some Roman historian talking about potential interactions between like Roman centurions or even these far-flung legions interacting with demons or actual gods or aliens or something, because maybe they would mistake an alien for Jupiter, I don't know, or a demon for Jupiter.
See right there, Ben, the bottom right picture. All those blocks are showing there are 300 tons, and they believe that they had been moved and possibly before the Romans had even arrived.
So that's what I mean. Even so, in even older culture, it was likely considered less advanced than the Romans because they were pretty advanced for their day.
Mm-hmm.
Like how the hell are they doing that?
That's a good fucking question. Did they have pulleys back then, like pulley systems, like where they could rig a mechanical advantage with pulleys?
The size of these blocks is, reminiscent of like a late Stone Age or Bronze Age civilization, not an Iron Age civilization like the Romans.
No, Romans was Bronze Age.
No, they weren't.
Their gladius swords were made of bronze. They were not.
No,
they weren't iron.
I thought they were iron.
Nope. They were bronze
Are you
swords.
sure they're bronze? Ben,
They were bronze.
Yeah.
were the Romans a Bronze Age?
Well, hold on. Let me get back to that in a second. So, according to mainstream resources, and obviously you have to take everything mainstream with a grain of salt. So, according to mainstream resources, earliest evidence of pulleys dates back to ancient Egypt in the 12th dynasty. So, by our reckoning, that would be 1991 to 1802 BC, and Mesopotamia in the second millennium BC. So that, obviously that was before, the Levant is pretty close to Mesopotamia.
Right.
So maybe they're getting technology from them. And Roman Egypt identified the pulley as one of 6 simple machines used to lift weights. But I mean,
Second millennium would be Bronze Age, right?
let me check out. Hold on. When was Bronze Age? Because obviously some cultures transcended various ages. So Bronze Age was 3300 BC to 1200 BC. So
the Romans were an Iron Age.
Doesn't mean their sword was made of iron. I'm reasonably certain that the gladius was made of bronze.
Yeah, Roman bronze gladius, right there for sale.
So the gladius was primary sword used by foot soldiers in ancient Rome, translated from Latin language meaning sword. It often featured a bronze, steel, or featured a bronze, steel, or iron blade. So they made all 3.
I mean, Rome pretty much wrote, because before they were Rome, they were just a small area called Latinum, where you get the word Latin. So,
but I wasn't wrong. The original gladius was bronze.
All right, there you go. Congratulations.
Not wrong, but not entirely right either.
Exactly. All right.
But I mean, the fact is, are like primordial pulleys going to lift those kind of stones? I mean,
if you had a lot of them working together,
you had
with a strong anchor point.
Yeah, and could they produce rope at the time strong enough to put that kind of strain on it?
Can't tie a knot, tie a lot. You know what they say, right, Ronny?
Yeah, I think the knots are the least of their worries on that one, Andy.
Well, I mean, they were working hemp, and hemp makes pretty strong rope. So
I suppose
it's possible.
Those stones are older than Father Time. So
well, they're as old as the planet itself, so I'm pretty sure
well, I mean, they were shaped before Father Time was born. So
I don't know about all that, but so the temple construction at Baalbek is an enigma. The answer to the question of who built the very large foundation blocks remains unknown. It seems highly likely that it was built at an earlier period than the Romans. There is evidence to suggest it was built during the reign of King Solomon. Some people are of the opinion it was built at an even earlier time. It is thought that many sacred sites in Peru and Egypt were built from colossal pieces of stone to withstand earthquakes. To build with stone in excess of 800 tons at Baalbek, well, it just seems excessive, and perhaps there are other reasons. The question that repeatedly crops up regarding many ancient monuments around the world is, do we need to look with fresh eyes at these sites to evaluate how old they really are? Many believe the ancient people to be primitive. Perhaps it is time to start looking at them as being much more highly evolved than we currently give them credit for. There is a culture of megalithic construction that existed across many parts of the world. Perhaps there is more to learn from our ancestors than first meets the eye.
I'd say so.
Yeah, I'd say so if our ancestors did indeed build this shit.
I mean, so because I was just curious to see if Romans had any sort of alien encounters, or if there was any acknowledgement of that. And so there's a couple interesting stories. I'll read one. Titus Livius Patavinus, also known as Livy. Anyone who knows Roman antiquities heard the name of Livy. Was a great historian of the ancient world who wrote an epic chronicle of Rome. In fact, he was something of a celebrity academic of his day. The Roman equivalent of maybe like a, I don't know, Gorvidal or something. His writings on Rome include a fascinating account of quote unquote many prodigies spotted in 2014 BC, including quote phantom ships that were apparently seen gleaming in the sky. Another Roman writer, and this is a couple of centuries later, in 196 AD, Cassius Dio, recounted how a fine rain resembling silver descended from a clear sky upon the forum of Augustus. He actually collected some of the bizarre material and used it to plate some bronze coins. He reported that they retained the same appearance for 3 days, but by the fourth day, all the substance rubbed on them had disappeared. So, it seems like Romans were aware of potential extraterrestrial life, whether or not they colluded with them or were provided technology by them to build these frankly impossible structures. I don't know, or the basis of these structures.
I'd say it's entirely plausible that they had some sort of contact with them.
I mean, they had to. I don't know. I don't see how ancient people are moving blocks like that. I really don't.
Well, considering that we couldn't do it today with our best technology.
Unless again, they just literally had like 100,000, captured slaves just pulling ropes up a ramp. Maybe, I mean, obviously the Romans didn't give
I think they could do it. Even with that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's too bizarre for me to imagine these. Like, obviously they could have had technology that we're not aware of. That's always possible and likely. But just even if they're saying some of those other enormous stones were moved a couple centuries before the Romans arrived, it's like, okay, how did those people do it? And they had less technology, but I obviously
right.
It just doesn't add up.
Maybe when it comes to doing things like this, maybe less technology is better. I mean, I think we could move those stones today with modern technology, but it would take a lot of machines working together.
Yeah.
In tandem. And even still it would be very difficult because everything would have to go perfectly, and it'd have to be extremely well coordinated between
you'd have to get
operator.
You'd probably have to get like eight or probably 10 or 15 D10 dozers or bigger, and friggin' hook them up to that thing on rollers and fucking drag that thing to get it moving.
More like D11s.
Yeah, maybe D11s. I mean, big dozers. Like, take the biggest dozers we got and times it by 10, and hook up a horse team of dozers.
Yeah.
To drag that thing.
I mean, that's probably what it would take. And then even then you'd probably have to run the cables from the dozers through a pulley system to get a mechanical advantage. You know what I mean?
Right, just to get the thing moving.
Yeah, exactly. It
takes a lot of energy just to get movement started.
Yeah. No, I mean, without, I mean, you know how they say like the TR3B, the anti-gravitic propulsion crafts and stuff like that. A lot of these people say that they used to use similar technology to move stones like that. You would use the what they say, the element 115, the red mercury.
Yeah.
And you'd put it close to or even under or next to those big stones. You'd get it operating and it would reduce the mass of the stone. I mean, even to the point of making it float. And then you just kind of float it into place.
Right. I've heard some stuff like that. And like where certain things, they could create a certain sound frequency to resonate with whatever the stone vibrates at.
Oh, that's like that place in Florida. They were saying that guy built his little castle down there in Florida doing the same thing.
Florida man.
What was the name of that place? The Coral Castle or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. They said that guy, and this was back in like what, the 1940s or 50s, he built this place by himself.
Said he levitated everything into place with sound frequency.
Yeah, that's what he said. That's what he told people when they asked him how he did it. Because people were baffled. They had no idea how he was building this thing all by himself.
So one of my theories, I guess, about all this then, because maybe aliens and were assisting in the production of these, or the construction of these grandiose temples so that they could receive human worship and adulation.
Could be.
Right.
Like I think advanced creatures on that level aren't going to tolerate some, minute little, pissant construction site and, accept it for their, for their greatness. So it's like, all right, let's just help these jokers build this grandiose temple to us. And yeah, oh, by the way, my name is Jupiter.
Or these places actually were built by the gods.
That's what I'm talking about. I mean, because I mean, again, from my personal worldview perspective, I mean, I go by the Bible. So the Bible never says that the gods of the other nations are fake. Like they're actually real. They're just not the quote unquote true God. So they are actual gods or demons or something.
Yeah, they're just not the ones sitting on the throne.
Exactly. So why not help these people construct monumental, time-tested temples for their glory? Because I just don't think those fucking people built it themselves. I can't personally believe that kind of stuff anymore. Like I don't have the exact answer, but it just doesn't add up. Like as advanced as Rome was, they did not lug fucking 2 million pound, individual slabs by themselves. I don't know.
Yeah, no, they didn't do that with slaves and horses.
No way.
That's horse caca.
Poppycock.
Horse pucky.
You are hairy like animal.
Hey Andy, you think they, as they were dragging those blocks, they were making the turtles fucking noise?
Ooh, maybe that's why Bigfoot is so grainy. Because the Bigfoot race used to be slaves. And now they're hiding out from humans. So they just make themselves all grainy.
Yeah, like that one comedian said, I can't remember who it was. He said that Bigfoot's just a naturally blurry animal.
That damn Sasquatch.
You're fired.
His fur is pixelated.
Exactly. Yeah, but you know that the 1960s video, the Patterson footage, that was pretty clear.
Yeah, it was.
That's probably the best footage with a 1960s camera. That's the best footage that we have to this day of Bigfoot.
You know what? Just to talk on that, why I find that so convincing is because not even like the muscle potentially moving, naturally.
And the titties hanging from the chest.
It's that chafing on the side of the leg from where like the wrist or the hand constantly brushes against the leg due to that natural. That's bloody convincing right there. Because unless someone's like autistically focused on details of a costume, I think most average Joes would have totally blown that over and ignored that detail.
Yeah, they wouldn't have even thought about that.
That
That
and the
was
video
really
was shot on film that far predates, Photoshop. You can't. It's hard to fake that.
Yeah, that video was not edited at all.
no, but the mark on the leg to me, it's like, okay, this is real. Like that. Forget everything else. That's the convincing piece for me. But yeah. So I don't know. That's kind of my working theory on all these absolutely ancient temple sites is that whether they're aliens pretending to be gods or actual literal demons who portray themselves as gods, they provided assistance to build these sites because
So it was like it was Nefertiti herself that came down and built it.
yeah, it's like, well, I want something grand. I don't want your little pissant human technology building me a crap temple. I want the greatest thing on earth. So I guess I have to do it myself.
Want something done right, you got to do it yourself.
he might some ancient deity micromanage the construction project.
Right.
No, Joseph, you got to put the pulley here.
This giant succubus bitch with huge titties and giant horns on her head, just standing there in wings. Like, oh, nah. You know what? I think it's more better feng shui if you put that pillar right there instead of here.
Like, I don't even remember seeing, because when I was in India, I visited a couple of the ancient temple sites, and they claim that some of those Hindu temples that I visited were there for like 3,000 years, and I don't remember anything on that.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I'd clap them succubus cheeks.
Well, the Indian people are ancient.
Well, yeah, I mean,
They've been there forever. Same thing with the Chinese. It's probably the oldest culture on the planet, the Chinese.
are you a Chinese?
Well, the oldest existing culture that still, it goes back. The ancient Egyptian culture died off. It's gone. You know what I mean? But the Chinese culture, like regardless whether or not they're communists now, because obviously they are, but their culture is still there.
That's true. Yeah.
Their culture is ancient and it's
The
never
Indian
died.
one too.
So, what'd you say, Ronnie?
Said, and the Indian one too.
Yeah, that's what I said before. I was talking about the Chinese. But yeah, I mean they've been there for 5,000 years minimum, and the Chinese 6,000 to 7,000 years. So it's ancient, and that's just with the history we know about. Who knows what happened before that?
Also, I mean, there's so much that's unknown. But yeah, no, this wasn't. These sorts of things weren't.
Yeah, at some point on the in the near future, we ought to, touch a little bit for a partial episode on the Chinese and the terracotta warriors and shit like that.
Yeah.
I didn't think there was anything like mystical about those.
Well, how many of the terracotta soldiers are there? There's, what is it, 10 or 20,000 of them?
In excess of that, yeah, I think.
Yeah, every one of them, there's no carbon copies. Every single one of them is an individual.
Yeah, that's what I heard. That's wild.
Yeah, and they were saying that those soldiers used to be like painted to the point where they looked like real soldiers, like with their uniforms and everything.
So maybe China's going to activate them in the future and they become real life soldiers.
No, maybe it was something more like what we did when we invaded Normandy with our inflatable tanks and shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just a decoy.
Very well could be. Yeah.
That's what I'm leaning towards. Something more like that. Because
Cool.
they didn't.
Thanks for tuning into the Terracotta Soldiers episode.
Yeah, China's enemies didn't have satellites and shit like that back in the day, so they could have built something like that and used it to distract them.
Well, and you place like 10,000 Terracotta Soldiers at like some pass, and it's like, okay, we're not going to go that way.
You know what I would have done? I would have carved 10,000 poorly armed slave soldiers, poorly armed slave soldiers, and put them out there. And then when they went in there to destroy the slave army, I would have ambushed them. That's what I would have done.
Son Andy Sue.
Hey, they want to be dumb and attack my slaves, then I'll ambush them. So, so what now, fellas? What do you think?
I think that's all she wrote. I guess final thoughts.
So, Temple Baalbek, was it built by people, aliens, or gods?
Again, I have to think knowing, especially because you look at like the culture, the gods of their cultures, like Roman gods, for example, were extremely haughty. They were arrogant. They were, demanded, this sort of dedication and devotion. So like for what was it, and I don't know, I forget what kind of people were there prior, which empires, but I'm sure their deities were much of the same. So whoever was pretending to be their deity, whether it was the real one or whether it was an alien or demon imposter bearing that name, like I have to think they received some sort of extra human, outside of human help to build these sites. It just doesn't make sense to me, even as a layman, to think that several thousand people were moving these extremely strong blocks and then lifting it 30 to 40 feet in the air in perfect symmetry on the side. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, to me, my theory, and I've mentioned this, I think, on this show in the past. I think the human race has evolved on this planet. We're much older than we think, and we've advanced to the point several times where we destroy ourselves and we reset. And I think we're nearing that point again. But there's a point where we get to the point where we destroy ourselves. And I think a lot of these sites could have been built by super advanced human beings in the past before they destroyed themselves.
Okay, I'm down with that too.
Because literally these structures are so massive and stout. I mean, they could survive millions of years through earthquakes and hurricanes and any other natural disaster you could throw at it. Even a lot of them, even nuclear bombs. So, I mean, I don't think it's that far fetched. I think that human beings have been around a lot longer than we think, and we've advanced a couple of times to technologically advanced cultures and civilizations. Some of which might have even got off world before.
No, there's evidence in India of possible ancient, nuclear explosions, where the ground, where the sand and the dirt, the ground for a certain radius from a center is melted to glass.
Yep.
Where this area and there's several areas like that within an area, and it's mostly, I want to say it's in India, like up.
Yeah, because what religious text are you talking about?
What's that?
It's the Hindu Bible.
Were you talking about the Indian text?
Well, not just the Indian text, but I mean, there's physical evidence to back it up.
Well, that's what I mean. So, but like there was a Hindu text which spoke about
the Vimanas.
There we go.
But yeah, I kind of agree with Andy there that the human race is far more ancient, and than we give it credit for. And like there's plenty of evidence. There's a what have they found? They've found what are those spears that have the concentric grooves that go around them that they found.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
They found like little metallic spheres with grooves. I can't remember if they're metallic or if they're stone, but they're perfect spheres, and they have a groove. Some of them a groove like around what would be the equator.
It sounds familiar, but I'm
Some
not
of them
sure.
have several grooves in them. And I don't remember what they call the spheres, but the spheres were found in strata and were dated to be about 2 billion years old.
Yeah,
And there's no way that they were naturally occurring.
and then there's the crystal skulls, just like in
Right.
Indiana Jones. There's like what,
And then,
13 of them?
no,
And
exactly. And then you have was it in South America or was it somewhere else where they found human footprints in a layer of strata right alongside dinosaur footprints?
yeah, and the same layer,
Yeah, exactly, in the same layer.
which means that there was humans and dinosaurs at the same time.
Yeah, and they have enough fossil record to determine that these footprints are modern human footprints. They are not footprints of any of our supposed evolutionary predecessors.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, hearing that, I could kind of take a view on both of, like, apply both of those viewpoints to myself. I
But
mean,
but
So
but then plus two, they got that what they call it, the London hammer that they found in Texas. It's
Mhm.
a iron head hammer sitting in rock that's dated to 140 million years ago.
yeah, and the rock formed around the hammer, and
Exactly.
the hammer is embedded in the rock, like
And the wood handle of the hammer is petrified. And petrification of wood takes millions of years. It doesn't happen overnight. So yeah, I mean, there's so much that we don't know, and if we do know, it's being hidden from us. Nobody's
there's
telling us.
there's more evidence than there is. There's more evidence for it than there is against it.
Yeah.
so basically, we've had cyclical history because history is not linear; it's cyclical.
That's what I think.
So basically, we're approaching a time that allegedly previous generations of humans approach where our technological advancement is going to be our downfall.
Yeah, based on human nature and the fact that it's in our nature to destroy ourselves, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's terrible.
We're the only species that, to my knowledge, that does this collectively. I mean, like intentionally destroys itself as a group.
Yeah, but here's the thing though, like we don't have to. Like this whole thing that's going on in the world right now, it doesn't have to happen this way. You know what I mean? Like ever since the Soviet Union fell, and I'm not saying Vladimir Putin is a fucking good guy, you know, but there's no reason since then that the United States and Russia couldn't have been working together to secure a more stable planet.
Oh, maybe
I mean,
destruction.
we're two powerhouses. There's no reason for it. I don't know why we're fighting.
Maybe it's just hardwired into us to seek conflict and tension, and maybe we're naturally self-destructive as a species.
Well, our leadership damn sure is. I mean, maybe not the rest of us, the people that don't matter.
We seek something that's different from us, and we label that the enemy, and we fight against it.
Me, Amy.
Well, yeah, I mean, but you know, throughout history, there's nothing more galvanizing than a common enemy. So,
Tis true.
I mean, governments have created enemies throughout history to control their own populations.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Well, I mean, you know, it's just like, you know, for most of the 20th century, the enemy was communism in the Soviet Union and Vietnam and Cuba and all that shit. Just communism in general was the enemy. And when that ended in the early 90s, the new enemy became Islamic terrorism. Right? And we did that all the way till through Obama's years. And now the new enemy, as soon as Trump got out, the new enemy is just Russia. Period. 100% Russia. Oh, Russia's the bad guy. Russia's the enemy. We need a new enemy to control the American people.
Yep.
So it seems like we're naturally, collectively speaking, self-destructive. Obviously not every single individual, but those who manage to get the power are just self-destructive. And maybe that's what happened, if it is true about humanity being far older than commonly understood. Then maybe, again, history repeating itself, they experience those same situations.
Well, I mean, maybe our history is a common blend between, biblical history and scientific history. Because if you believe biblical history, human beings have been here from the start. Adam and Eve were created at the beginning in the Garden of Eden, along with all of the animals and, all of that. So, maybe human beings have been here for billions of years, like all the way from the beginning of.
Well, I mean, in the Garden of Eden, because, it's sort of like what you call the whole counsel of God, because, in the garden, he said, let us make man in our image. So man is in that divine entity's image, according, to my personal beliefs. And
but if he said in our image, then it's not just one entity. It's
that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. So
But humans kind of at this point, probably at points all through history have gone against what they were created to be. I mean, humans were created
to create,
basically to be the caretakers of this planet and the life on it.
I disagree. I think humans were created to create. Humans were created to build, create, expand, explore, and learn. Because those are all of our main drives as humans.
Yeah, from a biblical perspective, which is, of course, my perspective, it doesn't have to be everyone's, that's correct. Because God told Adam, hey, start naming all of these animals. You have dominion over them. So yeah,
go forth and multiply.
Yep.
Yeah. But when you're given dominion over something, you're being charged with being the caretaker of what you've been given dominion over.
Yep. So yeah,
cherish it.
In that regard, yeah, we're absolutely failing at what our mission was supposed to be. Because to have dominion does not mean destruction. Because like if you give your child, dominion over your house while you're on vacation, like if they're 20 or whatever, you expect them to not destroy and trash your house. It means that they're going to keep it clean, bring the mail in from
leave it how they found it.
Leave no trace, old Boy Scout saying. So yeah, no, in that regard, we're absolutely failing, because maybe that happened to those previous generations of human beings. The technology got too great for them. It killed them.
I'm more on the George Carlin line of environmental conservatism. The Earth, throughout its history, has been through a lot worse than us. If the Earth didn't like us, it would shake us off like a fucking case of bad fleas.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, we're destroying the ecosystems in which we rely for collective survival. I mean, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. Like, who does that? You don't destroy the thing that keeps you alive. That's stupid.
But that's the thing. Like, I mean, like we were saying in the last show, we have everything we need in this country to support ourselves. We don't need foreign countries to produce our shit for us. We get everything we need right here. We don't need it. We don't need anybody else. I don't understand why we're so dependent on the rest of the world for our survival?
Because us producing our own stuff is tied up into so much government red tape now that it's not even worth business even trying to do it anymore. They
Well,
just
and unless we delegitimize that government.
yeah, which we every weekend we do our damnedest to do that.
So yeah, so ancient humans seems to be the consensus that far more
Yeah, but
advanced.
I mean, it's just like Klaus Schwab has been talking about forever, the Great Reset. And I think he's not wrong. I don't think he's wrong. I think we're quickly approaching our next reset point.
Yep, I'm saying ancient people were probably far, far more advanced than we know.
and then
And
they overstepped it.
in that case, they may have done it by themselves. But in the case that ancient people were primitive to our standards, then they definitely had help. There's no way they did it on their own.
Yeah, I like both of those viewpoints, and I don't think they're necessarily mutually exclusive, honestly.
I honestly think that these giant stones were moved by people on their own. I don't think aliens had anything to do with it.
So just with advanced technology.
Yep. I think these stones are much older, and I think these structures they've been there for much longer than we think. And
Yep, I lean that way too, Andy. I'm offering up the alien thing as an alternative.
I think the aliens are here and around. I just don't think that I think they have always been and still are much like what we see in the sky with the UFOs. They hang around, they watch, but they don't interfere. They don't do anything. They hang around up there and do whatever they do and take pictures or whatever. But I don't think they interfere in what we're doing.
Right. What's that called? From Star Trek, the Prime Directive, is that what it's called?
Something like that.
Where you can't interfere with the free will of a civilization.
Yeah, I don't know. I never really watched Star Trek.
Oh, so Big Bang Theory ripped them off.
I got a question if there even was there ever really a Big Bang?
I doubt it.
I think the universe is eternal. I think it's always been here.
Well, yeah, I believe an eternal entity created it, and I think the best proof for that, you don't even have to be a believer, like, you know, like, oh, miracles. It's like, I think just looking at how complex the natural ecosystems are and how they function interconnectedly, like how they're designed, is proof enough that it was not just some fucking accident. Like the best one time I heard someone make a great argument one time. It's like saying that the universe was created at random by a random force. It's like saying you just take a stick of TNT, you throw it in a junkyard, there's an explosion, and then you have a 747 in the aftermath. Like that completely is irrational to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say basically the same thing, but not with that analogy.
Well, yeah, there's a million analogies.
Yeah, it's just, you know, the idea of you know, a chaos theory with the universe and the Big Bang, that all there was some, you know, instant where a God particle exploded and created all the matter of the universe in an instant. You know, from nothing, which we know through even conventional science that matter cannot be created or destroyed, that it is just converted from one thing to another, whatever energy state it's in. But I don't know, it's just infinitely impossible that, you know, some singular event created all this matter and it formed the known universe as we know it. Like,
yeah. Plus you got to think too, like just for our planet alone, forget the rest of the universe. For our planet to have all of a sudden just showed up at exactly the right distance from our sun, with the exact correct rate of rotation, with a moon with the exact correct rate of rotation around our Earth, with water, atmosphere, and microbial life to support life on this planet, and then for all of that to go correctly, and no serious event happens that destroys everything, all of that,
And also to have
and the existence of human life, for all of that to go correctly, to be where we are today,
yeah, and then also
without intelligent design, it's almost impossible for it not to be
I've
intelligent
said this a
design.
million times. Like I,
so many anomalies of the moon, dude. Like, I mean, the moon being the perfect distance from the Earth to make it appear the same size as the sun in the sky. The moon's rotation on its axis being perfectly synchronized with its rotation around the Earth to where the same side of the moon faces the Earth at all times. I mean, that doesn't happen by accident.
No, it's intelligent design. It has to be intelligent design. Nothing else makes sense.
right.
I mean, the coincidences are just too astronomical. It just there's no way.
I think a lot of people, like the person who came up with the Big Bang Theory probably was like really disappointed one year when they learned about the Santa Claus lie and that destroyed their whole universe. So they're like, "Fuck you,
Right.
God! I'm gonna come up
I'll
with the
show
Big
you."
Bang. I'll show you, God."
I've read entire novels on the moon and the anomalies associated with it, and it's wild. And it goes deeper. If you haven't read about it, anything about specifically about the moon and how strange the moon really is, it'll blow your mind.
Well, let's revisit that again then with some of those novels. That sounds kind of interesting.
Well, we did do an episode on Hollow Moon, didn't we?
Yeah, I was there. It seems like we could revisit it, and yeah.
No, so
Yeah, we did kind of
or
we did touch on a lot of the theories about the moon, I believe. But
yeah, what did we talk about with the moon? It was
That it's a base. It's
Hollow Moon and Spaceship Moon, right?
yeah, I believe so.
We did. Anyways, I don't think the moon's a spaceship. I think it's like I said, it's a celestial body, just like Earth.
I think the moon is
think it was
definitely an
placed there.
artificial satellite.
Well, I think it was placed there intentionally.
Right. That's what I mean. I don't believe it formed from Earth. I don't believe it formed naturally in this solar system. I believe it was brought here and placed there perfectly with intention.
I mean, there's so many organisms on this planet, creatures that navigate by the moon, and they do it instinctually through their evolution. They always have. So
yeah, I mean, explain to me about the moon how all the craters on the moon that we can see, and the different sizes of the craters and how big they are, diameter wise across, and despite how large or small the craters are, none of them are any deeper than the other. They're all a pretty uniform depth.
it's interesting for sure. So anyway, I think we've beat this dead horse just about as long as we can.
The sea is foaming.
Show me. You have wandered way off course.
like we do every night.
Yeah.
We wander way off course.
Yeah, I think we have. So, you ready, Ben? Anyway, I think we're gonna.
I think Ben had to go tinkle.
Yeah, I think so. So, What else, Ronnie? You got anything you want to announce?
I don't think so. I think we about covered it.
I think so too. So this has been Supernatural Beer Bros podcast. I think we're at like episode like 35 or 36 or something like that.
Yep.
Crazy.
Sounds good, man.
It's been a year. I think it's been over a year actually since our first episode. So
Are
yeah,
we
been at this for a
gaining
while.
following?
Uh
Are we gaining following?
we're definitely consistent. I think
So
we're
not gaining, we're just staying about flatlined.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, I think our other podcast, the political one, and we've only been doing that for, barely like, I think like 2 months, right? And we're already at 1/8, a little over 1/8 of the total views of this one. And this one's been going a whole year.
Wild.
So, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, politics is just more of a hotter topic. That's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. But,
This is
Oh,
more
good.
of a this is more of a niche kind of field. You know what I mean?
It is. But I do this one because I think it's fun. Like, I have fun talking about this stuff.
Oh, I agree. I'm loving
You know
this
what I mean?
stuff.
Yeah, and talking about clapping Sasquatch cheeks. It's a good time.
So, yeah. So, like I said, we've beat this horse about as far as we can beat it, and it's pretty much a bloody pulp on the ground. So, where am I going right now? I don't even know anymore.
We're signing off.
We're done.
Yeah, we're pretty much done. So, like I said earlier at the beginning, you can find us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all the big ones, plus some of the smaller ones like Podbean.
What a loser.
You're fired.
You can find us on Instagram at SBBpod, and the email is supernaturalbeerbros@gmail.com. YouTube is the same. So this has been Supernatural Beer Bros podcast, and we are signing out.